Okay, with any luck, you guys can hear me. I'm not sure if that's the case because I don't have the full control panel in front of me. But if it is, let's take a look at our good old Forex Factory and see what's going on this week. And firstly, have a look at today, which is the 18th of December. 1 week to go, guys. And the big fella comes down the chimney, doesn't he? All right, everything's orange. And I don't see anything there that's really going to rock the boat too much in terms of where we're headed. May entered business confidence out today in Kiwiland. That was a miss, probably a good miss. MPC, or the monetary policy meeting minutes out of Aussie. That was also out. No idea what happened there. The Aussie, I don't know. I haven't had a look at too many charts, but we'll have a look at that in a tick as well. But if we have a look at the bigger picture, the big news, of course, is we.
Oh, mate, you made it.
Absolutely, yeah. G'day, mate. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. So I've got an ill child that I was just giving to the babysitter.
Yeah, that's always fun, isn't it?
Oh God, never good, mate. Never good. We it's only us two at the minute, anyway.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it was yesterday, mate. All right.
It was interesting day actually. Do you know it's tricky for me now because I've made my profit this month, and now what I've started to do is just kind of make notes on trades that I would have taken. Because it just Christmas is so close. I don't want to make a mistake and then have to battle to get it back again.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Absolutely.
How was your journey? Because you were stuck, weren't you?
Yeah, just change of times. That's all. No big deal.
It worked out though. I didn't think you were going to make it.
Yeah, no, all good.
So right, we have guests. So let's have a look what we got. God, there's actually not so much today, but tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow with the steep guy looks interesting, doesn't it?
Have a look at Thursday. It's Super Thursday. That's the big one. That's massive.
Wow. Yes. Yes, there is a lot, and the yen has really strengthened recently. Yeah, the yen has really strengthened. Now I can open up. I can actually see people's questions now. So people can communicate with us. Have you dropped off? You still there? I've lost your audio. Is that me or you? Right, I'm just going to bring up everybody. You're still talking. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Now, we had this problem before, and I can't remember how we fixed it. Now, anybody, anybody that's in the room, can you just let me know what you can hear? If you can hear me, then just say you can hear me. I don't think Jeff can hear me. We'll soon find out. Oh, you can hear me? Okay, I can't hear you. Now, what was it last time we did this before?
How about now?
Ah, that's better. Yeah, that's better.
I just remembered what I did last time.
What was it last time?
You just have to click the microphone off and then back on again.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes, we are back, mate. So I can see people's questions. So if anybody's got any questions, any charts to look at, let us know. Pedro picked out a cracking trade yesterday, Euro Yen, which worked out really well. But if anybody's is still in that, then I would probably suggest taking profit. Managed to hit a really good support level. So we got all this news kind of coming up here. And what does that, what does that tell us about today, do you think?
They might go hard today. They may not. They might go into their shell and wait for this news, or they might go hard into it. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Always hard to say. I do see a few setups though. I haven't seen too many charts since landing a few hours ago, but what I have seen, I'm absolutely seeing some interesting points. You want me to show you?
I'd love to see it, mate. Yeah.
Okay, then let's get rid of the Forex Factory. Well, we'll just make particular note that Thursday is absolutely massive in terms of news events. So if you're trading on Thursday, I hope you're in a good position to take some profit. That would be good. All right, first one I'm looking at is the euro, and the euro has, since I last was in front of a chart, responded after a reasonable drop on Friday, and it started, of course, on Thursday. And bang goes your mangoes on Friday. Got no idea what that was all about because as I say, I haven't been in front of a chart. What happened on Friday, mate?
Well, there was more tension in Italy, which actually cleared over the weekend. Okay. So it could have been down to that. There was Brexit issues last week with Theresa May having to win a vote of no confidence with her party. But Jeremy Corbyn's tabled another one since. But the guy is so watery that it doesn't seem like he's getting too much backing, even from his own party, with it. He's just, he seems to kind of like go into any kind of battle with paper gloves on. You know, he doesn't seem to want to hurt the other person too much. You know, he wants to win, but he's one of those people that won't win at all costs, which is always a bit of a concern when you've got a leader. You need your leaders to be strong and willing to
unbending.
Yeah, and unbending. Now I see your chart, which is a very interesting one.
I've got to give you that order before it actually triggers. If it's going to, it may happen.
Yes.
Quickly. I'm long above this bar here, and the entry. This is euro dollar 4-hour chart. The entry is at 1.1359, and I'll put my stop underneath the daily pivot, because I think that's probably a better place than where it would be underneath this candle. So the stop loss is 29 pips on this. I'm going to take 1/3 off at 15 pips, which is here at this level. And I'm going to take a further 1/3 off at 75 pips, and I'm going to let the rest trail. So what I'm actually playing here is I could actually play this candle, but it hasn't closed yet. And the reason I'm playing this is just in case this goes before that candle actually sets up. Why do I think it's possible? Well, we've come back inside a range again, so that depicts for me. I'll just go a little bit wider. This range which keeps producing false breaks, and let me just go that little bit further wider, and there's the range I'm talking about. It sits between around about the 118 mark, a little bit before that, and the 113 mark. So 500 pips of range there, and you can see that we've just hung around here, hung around here, hung around here. This is all due to what Ash was just talking about, and that was the vote which was supposed to happen last 11th. When was that? That last Tuesday, and did not, because she called it off because she was going to lose that. And then, of course, we've now since learned that we've got a I forget the date, but it's next month anyway at some stage.
14th of January. Yeah,
Tuesday. So it will take place on the 14th of January. And well, that's unless she does it again. I don't know. Can't follow.
I don't think she can. I mean, the Theresa May has actually. This is why Corbyn's put this vote of no confidence down, because of exactly that.
Yeah. Look, totally understand it. Why wouldn't you? I get it. Completely get it. So anyway, what we've done here is we've broken the low of this range, 113 again, back inside it, broke it again, back inside it, failed to get really a close below here, apart from the little gap that we saw yesterday, of course. And I think that we're probably going to test these highs again. So I'm of the opinion that there's a nice break back, if you like, into the range. And if I go to the 4-hour time frame, here's what I see. I see a bullish engulfing bar. What I normally like to see after that is a nice higher low. And this candle here is probably the best chance of that happening in the near term anyway. And tested the daily pivot there would have been absolutely ideal. And I still think that's probably my best option is to get into this market. But that said, I don't want to miss it either. So I'm just going in at 0.25% here. I'm just going in light in case I am wrong here and we do get a daily pivot test. And if we do, I'll back it up with another entry if I get a nice daily pivot test and reversal bar like that. But as it stands, we've broken both the daily pivot, the weekly pivot, the monthly pivot, and we've come back to retest the monthly pivot and the weekly pivot with this bar. And for me, that's a signal that there's an acceleration level through here, should price come back to that area. Now, if it doesn't, as I said, I'll continue to monitor this. And if we do get something off the daily pivot, I'll certainly be looking to reset my entry, if you like. But if this takes off, then we'll be on board. Happy days. Now, I'm also interested in the Aussie. And same thing, really. We've got, well, it's slightly different because if I go to the bigger time frame, you can see that we're actually coming back to the bottom side. Well, we're actually mid-side, if you like, of this range that we've been in since September. Now, false break to the high side, false break to the high side. Beautiful candle here to trade last Wednesday or Thursday, I think it was. And I'll go through that. In fact, I'll go through it now. It was last Thursday from memory, where I had a long position on this cross above this bar here. And we got into that. We took profit before the monthly pivot because that was obvious that this was going to be a potential bounce point, as it tends to be. We've seen that before. And then it produced this beautiful candle. Well, as soon as I saw that, I thought there's only one thing to do here, and that's place a short underneath that candle, which I did. I kept the long open, which of course eventually was taken out, but we managed to get the short side of this as well and took profit on that. So the net result wasn't so bad. We've now come down to, as I said, the midpoint of this previous range. And same as I just mentioned on the euro, we put in a big bullish engulfing bar at a support level. Now we've broken through the daily pivot and the weekly pivot and retested those from above. And also this level here was just 71.88, and of course 72 the figure. So again, this is against my grains. Why I haven't got the market. That's why I haven't got a trade in the market at the moment, because we are at a DR3 level, and I just on an intraday basis won't trade at that point in time. So what I'd really like to see here is exactly what I just described on the euro, and that is a retracement that comes down to the daily pivot, then gives me a nice reversal bar. That's when I'll look to take this long if I do. Now, I've been long biased this cross for quite a while, since we actually turned around here. And I've been waiting for a big retracement, of course, which we got. But these two lines here, these two red lines were my lines in the sand. And I said, this is the one I want to trade off. I want to trade long off this one. But as soon as this one breaks, my long bias goes. Well, it hasn't broken. We've had a false break of it, but no close below that level. So I'm still bullish, and I'll still try to get in this long if I possibly can. We're in a pretty sad state of affairs in terms of what's the word I'm looking for? Cycles? Maybe not even cycles. But we've got a resistance level here. We've got a support level here. So it's tough to get. I want to get this noise cleared, if you like. I'm on a daily chart at the moment. If you go into smaller time frames. You can see a bit of noise starting to gather here, and we've got the weekly pivot and we've got the daily pivot. Look, if this goes, it goes. Nothing I can do about that, but I really want it to give me a significant higher low here on the daily pivot would be perfect, and then we'll look to trade that long. If it doesn't come, it doesn't come. It's just one of those particular things up which you have to put. So we will leave that one alone. Now, the pound. The pound's really interesting, as always, in the current climate. And look, I'm looking at this bar here, which was what, last Wednesday? And couldn't really trade it then because of all the turmoil that was going around. But I'm still seeing it there, and I'm seeing it loud and clear. And it's a nice little kind of reversal bar. I really would like to see it on the daily pivot as well as the weekly pivot, but I'm very tempted to put an entry under here. I just want to see a little bit more. I think maybe there'll be a better opportunity, but I'm still bearish across. I don't think anything significant has changed, in my humble opinion, with the Theresa May saga that goes on. So what I'll look for here is this area. This area is very, very interesting. You can see it's been strong support, it's been strong resistance. It's also the top of this channel here. So there's a bit of confluence going on. So I'd like to see price react off here, and then maybe I can look for a short. But I am a little bit concerned with this bar, in particular if I don't see a close above that in the next couple of hours on this 4 hour chart. I think I'll be still willing to go back and trade that bar. So I'll keep you posted on that one. Probably not in this session, but in the evening session, I'll keep you posted. So they're probably the three majors that I'm looking at, mate. And I think there's opportunities here. It's a little bit tough to be thinking Aussie long, I've got to say, but I maintain that bullish outlook on the Aussie, and the euro not dissimilar. The pound pretty much the other way.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's the only trade I really like, or the only chart I really like at the minute is the Swissy Sing, and I'll show you that one as well. It's a
sure.
I think and that's more for the day than it is anything else. This is what we got with the Swissy Sing. Quite like this on a 4 hour chart here. This is what we got on a 4 hour chart here. It looks like we got an inverted head and shoulders type of pattern going on. And yesterday's move was pretty good. Looks like we got a level through here that we've broken through. I'd like to see this bar actually end as some sort of reversal bar here as well. So as it's tested this low area and managed to hold, that would make me feel a lot more comfortable about this one. And probably give us a half decent setup as well. So I think Swissy Sing would be decent. I'm looking at the other charts, the hourly, not really kind of the chart that I'll probably follow. It's more this 15, because I think we get a really nice clean area here that has been tested and rejected. So a break and a back test, I think, of this particular level would be my ideal scenario. I think for the Swissy Sing. So bit of a curveball in as much that is not a chart that or a currency pair that I would follow.
It's what are you doing there?
Yeah. Well, but you know what? This is the only thing. This is the only one that I particularly like. Now, the issue with this. And I'm going to come to a question for you in a second on the euro. The issue for this are these pivots, because we know how things do tend to react on the pivots. Now, the good thing about this particular level here is that if the level was to be taken out, let's put this on a 15-minute chart as well. This level's taken out, then that's actually going to give us a takeout of the DP. But it's not going to take out the WP. So, we could get a situation or a scenario where this comes down, takes out the DP, comes and tests it, but then goes to the WP and then effectively fails from there. But what could happen?
Get a good signal with that if that's the case.
Sorry, so explain that.
you should get a good warning that's about to happen if that's going to be the case on the smaller time frames off the weekly pivot in particular.
What if it's going to collapse there?
Mm.
Okay, well let's look into that. I mean, what could happen is this, which would be the ideal scenario. You know, it kind of gives us some sort of pattern where we can then start to pick it up and see if we get my favorite and most obvious pattern that I see everywhere, which is the inverted head and shoulders. So we get something like that.
And I think that'd be absolutely tradable in both directions. You know, you could trade a small time frame from the weekly pivot back down to the trend line.
Yeah.
And then start looking for. I'd absolutely be in on that.
All right, then let's try and do this then. I quite like the thought of that. So let's put on a trade. If we get the break and back test, I'm going to put on a trade here, or somewhere along this particular level. Trade it up to the weekly pivot, leaving this trade in the market, and then try and hedge it. So if it starts to come back a little bit, then the trade is completely balanced. And as soon as this one's in profit, then I would just put a stop at the entry level. So if that does start to go up again, then it's completely this one will start to trigger and take some really good profits. And the other one, if it starts to come down, then it just becomes profit on the way down. And if it starts to take out this low, then I'll probably take the first trade off the table and then manage the stops accordingly. So both trades are so either way that there's profit there. But yeah,
what I did on the Aussie on Thursday. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant, mate. I mean, I really like that style of money management. You know, where you are effectively entering long, but trading the short. You know, you're entering a longer term potential move to the upside or downside, and then hedging sort of the little intraday moves in the opposite direction.
Yeah, don't often do it, but I agree. I think it's a pretty good strategy, especially if you're coming off a strong level and you're trading into that level, and then you get a bounce off it, because it then can become a matter of a 50-50 call.
Yeah.
And if you've got that hedged in both directions, I think you're in a strong position then to take advantage of whichever way it does go.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, the one thing about that is that the first entry has to be right. The second entry, it doesn't matter, does it? Because you've already got profit in the market. So if you're entering short when you've already got profit long, then the first trade is going to be the way you're going to have the profit. And if it continues to go long and the second trade that you've entered ends up not reversing, you can either choose to take them both off the table, because it can get confusing, or you can see if you can manage it by just taking the second one off.
Yeah, I think I manage it because I've got a stop loss on the first. If I go back to, just excuse me for a sec, I'll go straight back to the Aussie and give you the example of that.
That'd be
great.
How
I did trade it. And here's what happened. Let come to me.
Oh, I gave you the screen.
So, I've still got it.
You got it? Yep.
Okay, so entered here, as you can see on the arrow, and we took profit before the monthly pivot, as I said, but then this came, and you know, that's a clear signal that something's up. And then we had bad China news on top of that, which is what this candle was all about, I think, and this candle and this candle. So my stop loss was here. No, my stop loss was under this bar here, I think, just this one here. So the stop was hit, and I then tightened up my stops on the short, just in case it came back and went in the right direction, or the initial right direction, and that turned then into profit. So, you know, out of this came a good short trade that was completely unintentional.
Okay, so can you go through that one more time?
Okay, so we went long here.
Yep.
Above this bar, but we put our stops under here.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we saw this, we put an entry short underneath that bar.
Leaving the first trade still on the table?
Leaving the first trade in, but with the stops still in the same place.
Yeah.
So as soon as we hit the stop, what I did then was go to a smaller time frame, 5-minute time frame, you know, 15-minute, I can't remember, 5 minutes I think it was, and I trailed my stop on every candle.
Yes.
So the very worst thing that could happen is pretty much a break-even trade.
Nice.
But if it goes right, and if you get a stroke of luck going your way, you've turned a long trade,
Yeah.
which would have been a break-even trade really, because you've taken profit at the right place,
Yeah.
into a winner on a fundamental announcement, which is really what that was at the end of the day. But it was very interesting. It had to be in front of the charts, of course, to see it happening. But that's the benefit of being in front of the charts, I suppose.
It's a very interesting, very interesting trade, mate, because actually what you've done is managed to trade the news, which means you get a nice explosive move. And if your first trade, if the news goes in your favor on the first trade, then you stay in and you make all the profit. The second one doesn't get triggered. And if the news goes against you, I suppose the only problem with that is a whipsaw. But then I suppose a whipsaw wouldn't matter, would it? Because they're both trades are balanced.
Yeah, and you've got to have the right amount on the second trade as well. You can't just you've got to have the same or equivalent funds, if you like.
Yeah.
On the second trade, because if you've got that weighted the wrong way, then you can lose. You can lose both ways.
So when you say that does that involve a calculation, or does that just involve one lot one way and then one lot the other way?
No, it does involve a calculation, because it depends on where you've got your stop.
Sure.
How much
I see.
I see.
I see. So yes. God, that's quite tricky, actually, isn't it?
Can be. I was lucky on this occasion because the candles that I was trading were both similar size, so the risk that I was taking wasn't too far away. So I knew exactly what I needed to do there without a huge calculation. So
I like that a lot. I
was very happy with the outcome, given, and if I hadn't taken profit here, that would have been a loss. But it was clear and obvious that you have to take profit here before the monthly pivot.
I think you might be onto something there.
Yeah, look, as I say, I'm not always in front of the charts at that time, and it was fortunate that I was.
Yeah.
Because no trade manager can trade that. You have to be in front of the charts to trade.
Yeah. I think that's a fascinating way to do things, because the thing is, one of the biggest what's the word? FTSE 100 has just opened, by the way. Let's have a quick look at the FTSE and come back to this conversation, because I really like it, and I think we're going to get some mileage out of this. What we're going to wait for with this Swissy yen, Swissy Sing, is a 4-hour bar anyway. So we've got a few hours on that, haven't we? I don't know when the 4-hour bars close. In a couple of hours, is it? Or next?
Yep. We've got 2 hours.
2 hours. So we've got
3 minutes. Yeah.
2 hours before we need to look at this. FTSE 100. So the FTSE gave a really clear signal. Do you know what? I had a real problem with trading the FTSE yesterday because this Santa rally that tends to arise just hasn't come, and actually the numbers haven't been awful. It's just there's so much uncertainty that even the good news that's happening with the markets are getting sold off. They're selling opportunities, but you look at this FTSE 100. This is a daily chart, and this is the move that we had yesterday. But coming back in, you can't really get a cleaner break of a level than we had over the last few weeks. I'm going to put my Ray back on because I like it. So we can't get a cleaner break of that particular level. Now we've also got a horizontal level here as well. Nice break, back test with some bars, and then really nice setup on the hourly. There was a 4-hourly setup actually here. As we get we're in this area here, the 4-hourly kind of gives us the lower high in this area, and then when we kind of mine into the hourly, we have now this. I say a nice setup. It was a little bit tricky actually because of this bar here, but that's the actual level there, and we get a nice break and back test on the hourly, and then we just get the waterfall to the downside. So the FTSE has struggled, but now we are on this this level of support down here. And I think it's because of because of where my month is, because my month is nicely in profit. I've got a little bit of a different attitude towards the market because it's December. This is a short month, and it does traditionally tend to be just that little bit trickier. So I haven't been playing it in the same way. I haven't been looking at the market in the same way, trying to enter trades. I've just been sort of interested in where it's going to go. But now we hit this area of potential support here, and we did talk about this before. I was saying that the FTSE 100 looks like it's going to actually it's going to start to collapse, and when it does start to collapse, I think we come down quite a way. But this particular area is not the area to go. It's the right area to go short, but it's not the right setup to go short because of what we got over here and over here and over here. This is a weekly chart, and when we look at the weekly chart, I think the weekly chart becomes fairly clear that we've got an area of support here, and to try and take this trade short would be dangerous, to say the least, at this particular point. And that's probably another reason that I've been a little bit reticent to enter the market short, because this area that collapsed yesterday could have stopped at this point. When we started to look back along the longer term time frames, this is where we were. We were right on that level yesterday that did actually end up giving way. Now, the numbers don't seem too bad, but the problem is the two biggest countries in the world do have this trade spat, which I think is probably more become a spat than a war now, going on, and that particular aspect is probably making people think, well, next year the numbers are going to be affected by that. So inevitably, I think that there's probably money that's come out of the market. And it's just a question of where the bulls start stepping back in again. The Fed isn't helping things out either, and it could be that we collapse again. But I'm finding it a little bit tricky to kind of get on board with the FTSE at these particular levels. I wouldn't mind a proper surge to the upside before I start going short. We haven't really tested this trend line as yet. It got close, but didn't really get there. So I'd like to see this trend line tested at some point, and then start looking for the shorts again when it's pushed up. But how we handle that intraday? Well, we're going to be going against the overall wave if we go long, and if we go short, we might be trading right into a significant area. So it's a little bit tricky to say at this point what the best course of action is. Which is why I'm probably looking at something as exotic as the Swissy Sing. That's why I'm being dragged over there.
So is the Santa rally off the table, do you think?
Yeah, I think it is, mate. I think it is. I mean, it's getting a little bit late. We've got another week, and it's possible that the Santa rally does end up appearing and showing his face, but it seems at this case that we're not going to get it. I don't know what is going to help it. CPI from the UK tomorrow, that's not really going to help out. Maybe when we start to look at Super Thursday again. Super Thursday is full of news and data, mainly from the pound. Retail sales, I can tell you for now, they are going to be pretty dire. I'm not sure why we've got this forecast, but actually, this isn't for the December period, is it? So maybe that's why. But no. Retail sales, the reports have been that the high street has been pretty obliterated. Now, whether people are online and it's a little bit harder to read, I don't know. But I know the high streets have been suffering hugely, to the point that there are some people saying that forget the high streets needing a defibrillator to get it back on track. It's dead. It's gone. So wow. and that may be true. That may well be true. No, not your Oxford streets and Regent Street and Camden Town and all that sort of place. I'm talking the little high street that Westfield, which is a big shopping centre. We're talking the high streets that exist in places like Barrow on the Hill, or Coldridge or something, which just the everyday normal high streets are not dying but dead is some of the word from the commentators. So retail sales may not help things out with the FTSE, so that's not going to come into play. The monetary policy probably going to be left unchanged, so that's not going to be that significant. maybe something from the Fed. When's the Fed dates?
Yeah, Thursday. Yep.
Is it on Thursday as well? Is it?
Yeah, it's all happening on Thursday, mate.
Oh, I don't see that. Where's that?
If it's not there, it should be. It's definitely there. It's
Is
definitely
it?
happening. Yeah. Hang on a sec. I'll have a look at mine. Now I've lost the bloody thing. There it is. Thursday, December 20. FOMC statement 0300. So it's Wednesday overnight.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Okay. So yeah, so that could be the catalyst. That's the only thing that I was looking at that could be the catalyst. Forecast to raise interest rates to 2.5%. If that's left on hold, then that will help equities. So that's where we may start to see a push. But I think considering what the FOMC is stating at that point, it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
What, you're tipping they're not going?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether I'd call it a tip.
Process last week, right? Yeah.
What's that?
You're leaning towards it. It's not a tip. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm leaning towards that. I just haven't seen enough in the way of overall data which would suggest that the Fed is a nailed on certainty to raise interest rates. It does appear that the rhetoric is for an interest rate rise, and I think that's why we've seen some really struggling markets. But I'm not sure. I mean, I can't just say I wouldn't call it a tip. But what I do know is that if there's going to be a catalyst for the FTSE 100 to start to move higher, and the same as the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq and all the kind of American indices to move higher, it's going to be an interest rate hold, or and that's the only possibility that we get some sort of Santa rally or some sort of relief rally going on.
Yeah, in terms of the dollar itself, I think the market has when it got up to, let's talk dollar yen, when it got up towards 114.50, when was that? Even 2 months ago, back in October. No, let's say last month, back in November, off the high there, when it got to 114 again. I think that was the market saying, okay, we're going to have an interest rate rise, but we've kind of fallen off that a little bit in the last couple of days. Dollar yen has just tumbled quite dramatically.
Yes, it has. The yen's been strong across the board, isn't it?
Yep. That may be a sign of things to come.
Yeah, obviously that's
risk off on it.
Well, this is the thing. We are in a risk-off environment, so it's no big surprise that the yen has strengthened. But there's no other reason that I can see. CPI from the UK, I think, is going to be interesting tomorrow. They're kind of forecasting a weaker read on that.
Yep. Look, tomorrow. Yeah, I went straight to Thursday because Thursday was just Super Thursday as it was. But yeah, I don't know, mate. That's not going to do anything for the pound, of course. And no. Yeah, I maintain my bearish outlook. The pound. I'm really interested in finding short, actually, pound US dollar, and we've now almost reached that resistance level I was talking about, which has really taken out the candle of last Wednesday. I'm actually thinking that's not a bad thing, because I would like to have gone back to trade that, but it's now in a dicky position, that one on the 4-hour chart I was looking at before. So as we reach that resistance level, that's the place I'll be looking for this trade to occur. But certainly dollar seems to be off again in early trading.
Yeah, it certainly does.
So my euro dollar hasn't gone far enough yet. It's only it's triggered, but it's struggling to get above, I guess, the most. It's only a weak, very soft resistance. but it's there. I'm struggling to get through it. We'll see.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, does that what I was going to ask you about that euro before we continue our other conversation? The pivots being in the order, in an order for selling in a perfect format for a perfect formation for that. Does that not concern you?
Yeah, look, are they though? And that's the thing. Are we on my chart?
We are on your chart, yeah.
Okay, daily is below weekly, below monthly, exactly as you would expect in a bear market. But really, let me have a close look at that. The monthly pivot and the daily pivot are less than 10 pips apart.
Right.
So what that's really saying to me is not that we're trending, but that we're ranging.
Yeah.
And if I have a look at that on the 4-hour chart, where we get a bigger picture of it, I suppose, that really is telling you exactly what the pivots are telling you, and that is that the market is very much in a range. And when you could continue to see the daily pivot and the weekly pivot change places every week, which they're doing, apart from this week, they held ground to the high side, but they're crossing over every week.
Yeah.
This week, it's the turn of the daily pivot to go long, if you like. I'm certainly not putting any weight on that, to be fair, but what it is a strong indicator of, and always is a strong indicator of, when the pivots are very close together, that the market is pretty much in a go square mode. It's going sideways.
Yeah, yeah.
That's exactly what they mean,
right.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because eventually that breaks out, and if you get the indication as to which way that's going to break out, then happy days. At the moment, I'm thinking this is not going, to hell and back, or certainly to heaven, but rather top of any range. Here's a range here. If it stops there, wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
But and that's why I'll be taking profit at that level. If we break outside of that range, then I'll just trail it. But the chances of it breaking outside that range, in my opinion, aren't that strong. So that's why I'll have two-thirds of the trade-off at that level.
Yeah. So let's go back to our previous discussion then about the money management of of entering a one trade, but trying to manage the money. So
look, I think it's a great strategy. I think it's a perfectly sound strategy, but you've got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can get into strife.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I suppose this is the thing. See, the way I see it is that you take a longer term view of a position. Let's say, and it doesn't matter what the longer term view is. If you're an intraday trader, maybe that longer term view is on a 4-hour chart. So let me just show you my chart here.
Yep.
So let's say we've got we're looking at the FTSE 100, and we've got an area of support here, a potential area of support, because it was resistance. So we'd assume that would become support. Now, the interesting thing about all this is that I think it'll only work on the first time of asking. So if this area here breaks, then we are looking for downside on the 4-hour. So as the area is broken down here, we'd be entering probably, as it came back up to the highs, we'd be looking for an intraday setup. But effectively, we are entering somewhere in this area here. We're not going to enter before that, because that was our closing price. Now, this is just the way that I am doing a scratched version of it. So now, as the market comes down to this level, what we're going to look for is a short-term bounce back up to this point, so we don't have to take this one off the table. And we would then be looking at, as this comes down here, we're looking at a 15-minute chart here. So we're looking for signs and signals on this 15 to give us a bounce point. Now, as that one comes up, my spin on it is twofold. You could effectively manage this in two ways. You put a stop here, and if this market starts to go in the direction that you initially had, then you are back in the trade to the downside, or you start to trail this up. So rather than having a stop there, you see this area becomes an area of support. So you move your stops up to that point, and that would mean that you get triggered back into the short from that particular point. Or you might even trail it all the way up to here, so you get triggered back into the short at that point. Now, when we look at this again, we actually get a setup for short here. So the other way you can play it is, rather than trading stops, you just wait for a new setup in the direction that you want to go in. You take one off and leave the other one run. Now that's a lot of work, but it is a way that you can trade it, right?
It is a lot of work, and it's the model I would go with. Absolutely. It's kind of, otherwise you're trading in a panic situation.
Yeah.
So two things. One is I want to pick a I'm wrong point. So if I'm wrong, I want to be at that point in time going, all right, I was prepared to lose a quarter of my account. Sorry, a quarter of % of my account on that trade. But if I'm wrong, I'm really wrong at this point, and therefore I don't want to lose that whole quarter of a %. I only want to lose 1/8 of a % if I'm wrong. So at that point, that's where I would enter in the opposite direction to hedge. Now, I wouldn't do it unless I hit A, that I'm wrong point, or B, got a signal in the opposite direction. And that would be exactly what I got on Thursday with the Aussie, with that big reversal bar coming off the monthly pivot. So no matter what it is, there's two ways to do it for me. Yeah. One is with an obvious I'm wrong, with a reversal at a significant level, or B, my I'm wrong point anyway. I know I'm wrong after that, so I just want to hedge or close the trade, one or the other.
And the challenge really comes in on the first trade, doesn't it? Because of the very first trade you enter, if you've got you've got it wrong, you haven't managed to kind of like get a decent entry, or let's say this has come up and you've got in at the low of this bar. It's come up to your area of resistance. You see a little bit of reversal here. You got in at the low of this bar, triggers you in, and then it goes higher. That's where the sticky scenario comes in. When you don't get your first entry right. But I like it. I like the thought of taking that overall view. Now the question comes in: does this really work better when you have a news-based item? So let's put in, for an example, tomorrow's pound news. Now, what's our view of the euro pound, for example? And I would suspect that the euro pound really longer term. I don't know that weekly chart particularly, actually. All right, let's say for the rest of the week we'd be looking for a short because of that weekly bar there, this weekly bar here, that area of resistance. So we're looking for a short in the euro pound, and we managed to get into this, and we just take the short, and because effectively we're trading on the weekly, we're putting our stops at probably near this high, which does make things a little bit expensive. So we've got in a short here. It doesn't really matter about all the fluff that happens, and it starts to break down. Now we're going to be looking at potentially looking at a hedge long back here, right?
Yep, that's a reasonable point. Yep,
that's the reasonable point. So what we want to do is try and get in this short, and then when news comes out, we'd put in something which would give us an order for the reversal. So we're looking for it to drift. We're trying to get a setup before that news and data to show us which way that the market is expecting it to go. But the hedge is really going to come in just before the news event, would you say?
Yeah, you're in a very sensitive area now, because you need to then trade without stops.
Right. Yes.
Which is is uncomfortable for a lot of people.
But does it? Will
Now,
it matter if you if the first one is already in profit? Does it matter because actually your entry, your hedge entry, is your stop,
yeah, exactly right. But
and it just
that doesn't
balances.
that doesn't change the discomfort of some people. So, and that goes back to our, one of our first points. You need to know what you're doing. You
Yeah,
can't just do this on a whim. It's you need to have this plan so that your execution is absolutely spot on. Otherwise, you can get yourself in a whole heap of trouble.
yeah,
But in the instance you're talking about, then you need to trade without stops. In the instance I was talking about, then I need to trade with stops.
yeah.
So yeah, there's a very subtle difference, but it's
Well,
definitely
I
there.
I think there's an answer. I think there's an the answer to this is that you because you're obviously you want to trade with stops if you're not able to if you're not able to hedge in such a way that it makes the whole thing safe because of the balance, then there must be an answer, an equation to this where you're able to put those two trades in. Um,
Yeah.
because
As I said,
my point
the
with this, my
yeah,
point
you
with
go.
this is that you don't end up taking. Oftentimes, you don't end up taking. Firstly, all the profit that is offered to you, and secondly, you end up maybe missing trades because you don't. But with this particular way, you probably pretty much trade everything, and you trade it to its full potential. Um, there's going to be some times where it's going to kind of like get a little bit confusing, but as long as the first one is well managed, then the rest of it should take care of itself because the hedge should balance out the profit that you've already got.
Yes, that's true. If you've got that formula right, then
Mm,
happy days, no problem.
mm,
Going back to my first example was okay. If I'm wrong on that first trade, I'm prepared to lose X, and once I've hit X, then the very worst thing that can happen is I'm going to lose that amount, right?
yeah,
Because the hedge and the initial trade then take care of themselves.
yeah, yeah,
They cancel each other out. If you then get a strong move in either direction, you can then make a good profit out of that trade. But without news, and that was my first example, although it did come across news later on, the stop then becomes important because without news, that momentum shift is purposeful. It's for a good reason and it's likely to continue. With news, that's quite true as well. But news can also whipsaw, dependent on the news event, of course. If it's
mm,
a number, then the chances are it will go in one direction. But if it's not a number, then it's open to interpretation. And even sometimes, if it is a number, it's open to
yeah,
interpretation.
yeah.
So you're nothing certain with news.
I mean, I think
Whereas,
the other challenge I think, let's think about this FTSE because I quite like that. This is quite a good example because of where it is. Let's say we managed to get in the short here with the FTSE, and we managed to get the short off a longer term time frame. We got a longer term perspective on this. We managed to trade the breakdown there. Now it's hit this area of support. We would like to stay in this trade and see if it's going to go further. So at this point, we're starting to hedge. Now the challenge I think comes in on how you hedge it, because let's say we would have got in here. There's an area of support, so we're back long now. But as this
yep.
starts to come down here, we've got this one in the market and we got this one in the market. But as you said, depending on where that stop is, your profit could get wiped out completely just because you
Mhm.
don't have as much movement in one, for the upside. You don't have as much um, balance. The movement can be a lot less because of where the stops. The stops are going to be tighter on this one. I think that's the other aspect of the challenge.
Sorry, which bit
Well, so
I
you,
missed
you
you.
can't be an absolute. It's not pip for pip. If you've basically got a wider stop on the downside than you have on the upside, then it's not pip for pip. So if this starts to come down, you could. Sorry, if this starts to if this starts to come down, the loss that you're making on the upside is going to be greater than the profit that you're making on the downside.
And that's where you need to balance it out, as I said before.
Yeah.
Your pip needs to be exactly the same. So that is a calculation. So if your risk is, let's say, 0.25% on a 10 pip candle, then if you're then trading another, depends if you're trading a candle or you're just entering at a price, I suppose. But either way, you need to work out what your pip value will be compared to the initial order that you've got in the market.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yes, you can still get yourself into trouble, as you say.
Yeah.
Because your losses can be pip for pip worse than your gains.
Yeah.
Or greater than your gains.
Yeah. That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it needs to be a calculation, that's for sure. It's not that difficult. Well, your terminal view will tell you what your pip is worth. You just watch every time there's a pip movement. Okay, that's what that's worth, and then convert that into the new position, I suppose. I soon be able to do that in my head.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we need to work out a formula for that then, if that's the case. I can see where that could get sloppy.
It could, yeah, and this is where it becomes difficult, because this is a trade here, really nice trade to the upside. You know, a decent level, nice low down here. Obviously, we're counter trend trading, but this is definitely an upside trade here, and that's enterable as long as you have a specific spot to hedge that.
Well, you had a nice reversal bar there. So yes,
but where's the point that you kind of, well, in fact, the point that you look for a hedge is these areas, isn't it? That's the next area for a hedge. So you're looking at 67.89 from this particular point here, but this looks like it's going to try and make a decent morning star there, but a lot of orders going into the upside on that one.
Looks like it at the moment, yeah.
I'm just checking what's up next. Nothing really. I haven't got the news on in the background today, but yeah, this looks like a decent entry. But yeah, there's lots of things to work out with this, and I really like this because I think that as we enter the world of robots and algorithmic setups, I think the way to beat the charge with all this is by a really good money management strategy. You know, setup, yes, but if you can get your money management right, this is where you could probably just about outstrip a robot, because the robot will probably calculate the same amount every time they enter a trade, and all they're looking for is a black and white kind of scenario. They're not looking for any nuance, and this is where the human might actually get out in front a little bit.
We can actually take on the machines, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, with some decent money management, yeah. But you know, every chart is easy to analyze after the event, isn't it?
Yep, you bet. That's when I do my best trading. It's the next day. There's no question.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's true.
Yeah.
If we could all wake up on Monday morning and trade Friday's candle, it'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, I have to say my journal is well and truly in full force again now.
Oh mate, you're a legend. You've absolutely beaten me. Mine's not. Mine's.
I came out of it a long time I came out of it, but I've started to kind of get into it, and the reason I've got into it is because if I'm not going to actually trade the FTSE 100, then what I will want to do is analyze it properly. I want some skin in the game. So the way I can do that is to test what my ideas would be.
Yeah, look, there is only one way to do it, and that is to journal it.
Yeah.
Because you know, as sharp as we think we are, our minds aren't that great. We can't remember. We just can't remember. Yeah. I certainly can't. I can't remember Thursday's trade properly, much less last Thursday a week ago. You know.
Yeah.
Too hard.
Absolutely.
Too hard.
Oh, absolutely.
We got some new 30-minute candles. Should we have a look?
Let's have a look, mate. Yeah, I did think about that. Where are we at with that?
Okay, are you handing to me or am I taking?
And now let me see what we got to do here. I'm going to hand to you.
Because it seems if you do that and then I do it, it cancels the first one.
Yes.
So
Any listeners, by the way, if there's anything you guys want to look at, then do holler.
Okay, Aussie first up, and this will disturb me somewhat if the Aussie just goes up to here now without me getting an opportunity to get on board, because of what I've been trying to do for the last probably 3 weeks. Yeah, probably 3 weeks. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. Look, it's obviously at a resistance level, and today's high, as a matter of fact. And if it can get through that, I think it's probably look out. We might be headed for a next resistance level, which will be probably the monthly pivot. But I really want a chance to get into that, and at this point in time, that chance is elusive. The euro, we're a couple of pips away from a TP there, a take profit. But that's looking fairly strong as well, or the dollar's looking weak, should I say. That's probably the better way to look at it. Certainly if you compare the euro and the Aussie, that's the way it's looking. But there's nothing to do here, and if you're not in this trade already, then there's no way in at this point. Pound on the 30-minute charts. This is the one I'm really after as well. Well, another one I'm really after. I want this to hit a resistance level and then give me something of a reversal, because I think pound of those 3 crosses that I just looked at is the one that is more likely to fail than either the Aussie or the euro. And I guess if you put that together, pound Aussie should be going south. At the moment, that's the case. I don't see really a way to trade that at the moment, because this candle's just a little bit too big for me to trade. I like the fact that it's given us a double top, though. What I'd like to see now is this bounce off here and then put in a nice lower high. And then I think that's a good short to take. Pound Aussie. But pound US dollar, no, not at this point. Aussie yen. I traded this candle on Thursday. And as you can see, it expired. Bugger it. Because that looks like it might have been a good trade when it finally did trigger. We got a bit higher, but then as soon as it started to go, it went. And this may finish down here around about 79, even right around about the 79 level itself. I was keen on that, but no way in. Well, there was, and I took the order, but as you can see, it did expire on the 30-minute chart. Where are we up to? Too far gone, I would suspect. Actually interesting at the moment. If it were to hit DP here, I might look for a reversal. But gee, it's looking a bit basey too on the 30-minute chart, I'd have to say. Could be interesting. But this is a signal that we're ready to go short again also. Dollar yen. I'm interested in this because it has been very bearish, but it is at a support level. You can't really see it there on the 4-hour chart, but let's take a look at it here. Trend line, nice confluence of around about the 112.50 mark. I'll probably need to go a little bit wider to show that properly. We've had resistance through here, support through here, and that also holds up a little bit further back. So 112.50 is a level that I respect. But gee, it's looking very bearish, isn't it? One little retracement, bang, gone again. Let's see what happens at this level. There's nothing there to get interested in at the moment. Pound Aussie we just spoke about. Pound yen, interesting that the pound yen is rallying, yet the pound Aussie is falling. That is interesting, given we're in what one would describe as a risk-off situation. Maybe there's just a bit of retracement at the moment. Yeah, I don't want to do anything until we get to here on that one, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're close, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Euro pound, look, when I looked at this chart earlier, this is the 4-hour chart, I thought, oh, there's a short setup here. But then I had a closer look and hang on a minute, something's not right here. And of course, there was a big gap on this cross yesterday. I guess, as you would expect, over the weekend. That was, if that was a red bar and that was a green bar, I'd be absolutely short this, very, very quickly. But it's not the case. They're reversed, and it's not a signal that I want to take a good look at. What I am, and what stands out like the proverbial dog's balls, is that we've gone into absolute consolidation here in the last 3 or 4 days, and the candles are just very, very indecisive and not very strong at all. We saw this back here right through the first week of this month. Then we got the rally on the back of Theresa May. Euro dollars just hit TP1. That's good. We got the rally on the back of Theresa May. Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Good work. Nice.
Take a look. Oh, yeah, that's off. Okay, good.
Nice work.
Where was I? Pound
Making
yen.
money.
Oh, well, that's always a good thing. Euro pound. Yeah, this scenario I like, because this is going to break out of here. The interesting part is, I thought it may well have, given that the decision is now known to be on the 14th of January. Why is it still in this area? Is got me a little bit perplexed.
Well, why is it sticking there, you mean?
Yeah, why haven't we got a favourite here? Why haven't we said, okay, the pound's bound to be weak, the euro, not so much? Why isn't euro pound taking off is the reason.
I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of manifest. Yeah, it's the way that the chart's looking. It's just like everything's gridlock, isn't it?
Absolutely, but if I'm a gambling man, I'm saying, okay, this has got to break to the high side.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's a tricky one, because last week's bar suggested downside this week, which means that I'd really like to see whether this is going to hold before trading it long.
Wow, look at that! Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the weekly bar. That's screaming short, isn't it?
It's screaming short. Yeah. It hasn't really collapsed down as yet, but it's it's only Tuesday. And I think it's just in one of those areas, isn't it? It's just like it's in a very difficult area to trade now.
Maybe I've just answered my own question, or you've answered it for me. That's why it's not rallying. It's because of that bar right there.
Yeah.
We're not the only two people on the planet seeing that, obviously.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know what that line that we see from July down to the next high. I think that probably does actually leave us under that area, doesn't it? I don't know. That's probably as high as we've got to aim for as well. So tempted to take this on this FTSE. There's a long trade on the FTSE. While you're doing this, I'm just going to check it out and see if it's worth it.
Yep, sure. Okay. I've been known to trade that long before, but gee, that's scary. Right there. Let me have a look at that level. It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah. My gut's telling me this is going to take these highs out, but let me bullish engulfing bar, off resistance, bullish engulfing bar, off resistance. I'd like to see a weaker retracement in here somewhere. So a higher low in here somewhere would get me convinced, and I'd be going long. I've just got this sneaking suspicion that that'll be way too late, and that may not even happen. I think this is going to go. Tough one to trade, though. Tough one to trade. She's trading straight into that high. Yuck. Which has repelled the market before. Look,
Smithy Singh is just giving us that setup as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
Anything to trade?
There is something to trade. It's whether I'll trade it is more the question.
There's always that.
I mean, it's the Swissy Sing. You know what I mean? I just don't know this market well at all. But there is that. I mean, that is a trade. I mean, I can show everybody, and they can make their own choice, I guess. But it is a nice trade. It is a really nice trade.
Sure.
Okay, so this is what we've got, and so we've got the Swissy Sing. This 4-hour bar hasn't yet closed, but we're definitely making a higher high here and a higher low on the 4-hour. Decent area of support here. This is the area, and this is the setup. Pretty clean. 15-minute chart. We got a nice break of this level here. A bit of an evening star pattern coming in here, but that's not really the issue. That the area that does start to become interesting is where we are, because this is what we got, you know, right on the daily pivot, and we've tested the weekly, shoved right down, back on the daily, stops at the lows, and that is a long. I suspect anything.
In my book too.
It's a long, isn't it? I mean, you know, it's screaming long. The FTSE 100 is also a long, but we would be counter trend trading, and there's about 40 pips in it. So there's two longs really. FTSE 100 I'll show you as well.
What chart is that? Sorry, the one you just covered.
This one here, or the previous? This one over here.
That one on the right. Yeah. What chart is that?
That's a 15, but it's just showing the pivots. It's the same time frame, but it's just showing the pivots.
Okay, so there wouldn't have been an entry off the 5-minute from weekly down to daily, would there?
Oh, interesting point. No,
too hard.
Well, possibly you could have traded a bar, maybe. Just you couldn't trade off a bar. You would just have to trade the fact that you can see that there's weakness when it's banging its head.
You're in genius territory there, mate.
This is the thing. And we probably want to see a 5-minute bar, which suggested a hold as well. But as soon as you see that 5-minute bar, we are in the area to go long here.
Yep, agreed. As you say, it's only the first one though. There's a weak entry there, and there's a stronger entry back at the trend line, isn't there?
Yes, there is a stronger entry back at the trend line. The one thing here is the daily pivot, and I suspect what may happen is that we come and touch the trend line and then close above the daily pivot, which would be a really good signal. That's what we'd really want to see. At this stage, we haven't even got a 5-minute bar, which is suggesting that the selling is done. So we wouldn't enter just yet. It's just really an illustration of an area that we could certainly look to trade in.
Yeah, look, that's setting up quite nicely, mate.
Yeah, I quite like it. I do quite like it. As I say, question whether I'll take it is another one, but I do quite like that. Not sure.
Let us see.
So you've obviously got profit on the euro, which is great. Any management that we need to do on that?
No, mate. I think the management I saw in the first place was right. Let me go back and have a look at it. I'll pinch the screen, see if I can just pinch it without you doing anything. Okay, we're on my screen.
Yeah. This is more when I talk, it flashes, but we got no problems with that, so we're okay.
Okay, so we're trading this on a 4-hour chart, right? Not a 30-minute chart. I'm just on the 30 to see if there was something there we needed to do. So the 4-hour chart is giving me a breakout. It's giving me last week's weekly pivots, and it's giving me, all sorts of rejections in this area, and potentially that will drive the market back down, and we're going to leave our stops exactly where they were in the first place for that reason. The stops need to be underneath the daily pivot, in my humble opinion, because this could easily retrace and then go again, and it'll probably retrace if it's going to off these highs that are scattered through here, and there's also lows. You can see again the pivots where they've just crossed, and the weekly pivot in particular has been strong through this area, and that's exactly what we're struggling with at the moment, is the weekly pivot and these levels. No, there's nothing to do here, because if we're wrong, well, we can't be really wrong, because we're trading in profit now at the moment. We're wrong, obviously, if we get below the daily pivot and our stops get taken. But I don't think we're wrong. I think we're on the right track here. And the one risk is the untested daily pivot for mine. But to do that, price has got to come back through the monthly, through the weekly, through the daily. Why did it go there in the first place? It went there in the first place because there's buyers around. There's a big bullish engulfing bar here. There's a rally through that. There's a retest of the pivots once they've been broken. This is the next leg as far as I'm concerned. So I don't have any qualms about staying in this trade to this level because it's the most significant one on the chart. Oh, sorry, the next most significant one on the chart. Certainly not the most significant one. And that's where we take the bulk of our profit again, the second third of this trade. So if we get to there, we're in absolutely no problems. And if we're right, then we'll head towards these areas. And that's where we'll start to think about. Look, I actually don't think I will start to think about that. Once we've got our second take profit, I'll just let this go.
Yeah.
Because we can't lose, we can only win.
Yeah.
And let's just see how much gusto this has got in it.
Yeah.
Don't forget that tomorrow evening, if the Fed don't raise interest rates, this will go up to here.
Yes.
It'll be at 115 very quickly.
Yes.
And maybe beyond. So as long as we can hang in here, and I think our stops need to stay where they are. I don't want to tighten our stops yet. I think we're in a good posse.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think you're right.
More than happy.
Well, I mean, if you've got nothing else, why don't we shut down? I've got just there are couple of trades to take, obviously to the upside. Swissy Sing looks good for me for some upside. You could wait for a test of the trend line, but I don't think it's necessary. I think you could get in here with a bit of comfort. And actually, the FTSE long, I do quite like it. I'm looking at just to see what it looks like at the top of the hour. But if by the top of the hour the FTSE 100 is still kind of in this area here, just do it on the hourly here. If the FTSE 100 is still in this area, I quite like this for a push to the upside. Now, you're not aiming for a lot. I think we're probably aiming for the first point of resistance, which is somewhere around here. Maybe well, there's obviously going to be points of resistance on the way here. But at this point, we could employ some sort of hedge strategy if we can get our first trade in the market and it's going in the right direction. But I'm just looking to see whether this 5-minute chart is the one to actually get a trigger from. And I'm looking at this area here. So I'm looking at 67.27, 67.30 where we are right now, holding out. And if this area holds out in the next 7 minutes, then I am going to go long, and I'm going to go long and see if I can get up to 67.59. So that is the plan, mate.
Sounds good.
So
and with Swissy Sing?
Swissy Sing, the plan with the Swissy Sing is to take the trade actually already. I think we've got a 5-minute bar, which is showing us that we've got a hold, starting to push to the upside. Fine to get in here. Stops at the lows down here. So that's an entry. Stops at the lows down here. So we're looking at 16 pips there. No, 16 pips lead us somewhere around about here. Let me get rid of this line here. What I'd look for with this one is to look to trade back to the highs here on this bar. That's where it's going to get sticky, because that is a reversal bar on the weekly. So that's where it's going to get sticky, but that would still give us a really good risk to reward ratio. So back to these highs would be the idea. And again, using the same philosophy, try and look in this area. Is there does there seem to be problems in this area? If there is, hedge it back down again, leaving the trade on the table, and see if we can aim for this point. So entry where we are, stops at 1.38, probably dead, we could say, and take profit is probably going to be around about the 1.3907.
Happy days. Now we've just given ourselves a Christmas homework
Yeah,
schedule, and you know
give
what
it
that
to
is,
me.
don't you?
No, give it go. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
we've
I'm
got
not
to
sure if I
come
like
back.
it. Yeah.
We've got, we've got to come back. When do we come back? I think it's the 7th or something, isn't it? Something like that, anyway, of January. We come back
Yeah.
with a defined hedge method.
Okay. All right. That sounds good, mate. I mean, as I say, I have actually started to journal. And the way I journal is not the same way as other people. I don't just note down times of trade and everything else. I actually put a bit of detail into my thinking as well. That's the way that I tend to write a journal. So I think I think I'm going to be able to take on that challenge.
All right, happy days. And
Yeah.
my 2019 challenge, of course, is to actually fill in from. Oh no, I got to March, I think. The trade journal that I started last January.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, in that case, it's January to April this year that we've got to get to at least.
Yeah, that's a win for me. Absolutely,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a victory.
So let's put
That's a
that down in
PB.
our wish box.
Okay, happy
Yeah.
days.
All right, buddy. Well, I'm not sure if I'll be in later on because I've got
Yeah, you've
a
got pressing
toddler and
engagement. Understand? All
I've got
good.
yeah.
If not, mate, no dramas. We'll press on regardless.
It's in about half an hour, isn't it, or is it an hour?
No, in a half an hour.
Half an hour. Yeah. If I can pop in, I will do.
Sounds good.
Especially if I'm in a trade.
Right, mate.
All right, buddy. All right. Good to speak to you, dude. I'll say if not, I'll speak to you tomorrow.
I'll be here.
All right. Great stuff. Thanks a lot. And thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Speak to you all tomorrow.